He's Frank Schwab. I'm Jason Fitz. It's time for Inside Coverage, and we're going to have a feisty episode. I know feisty's usually for Fridays where you and C-Rob get to fight, but we're about to take on the entire NFL, Frank. This is us taking on every single fan base with brutal truths. All right, like, look, I'm going to be honest with you, brother. You know, I grew up a music kid. You know that. And when I was a little kid, my mom would walk in the room after I was practicing, and my mom would say, if that's the best you can play the GD thing, you should just put it away for the day. That's how my mom always communicated. And I think we need more of that, like brutal honesty. Like I see it all the time where somebody stands up at a karaoke bar and they sing, and I feel bad for them because I feel like their parents their whole life probably told them they were pretty good. And they need like brutal honesty, you know, like that it's okay to look at somebody and say, hey, you're probably not going to be a world-class athlete. This isn't for you. We are going to apply brutal honesty to every single team across the league with just a very specific, you know, here's why things aren't going to go. There's too much hope right now, Frank. We're going to throttle some of that back.
I'm just reminded, I believe it's Gladiator, the gif with the he's got the sword and like everybody's coming at him from the hill. I believe that's us today, because when you upset 32 NFL fan bases, as we know, there's only 32 of them. Yeah, we're gonna make everybody angry. Like I RIP our mentions, you know, to use an old phrase. Yes, we're not making any friends today except each other. We got each other. That's about it. Every other fan base will hate us by the end of this hour. That is our goal. That is our truth.
That is our truth. But what I do think is funny, and we talk a lot about benefit of the doubt. I know I use that phrase too much, but like I feel like when you get to the actual season, the hardest thing for every fan base to do is to apply universal benefit of the doubt or lack thereof. And by that, I mean, like, what do we see so often? You know, if you're a Raiders fan, I'm a Raiders fan. Every year by the time we get to August, every Raiders fan is going to sit there and say, well, we've added this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. And we have this coach and this, like, so everything's going to be better. But what they don't do is then turn around and say, oh, yeah, but the Chiefs have added this guy, this guy, this guy, and the Broncos have added this. Like, everybody else's additions suck, and your additions are all perfect. And that's the way we see it. And more often than not, I feel like by the end of the year, if we had just all been honest with each other over the summer, the whole thing, like, I think we're helping people, Frank. Like, we're going to help people be honest about just how crappy their team situation is so that they're better prepared to handle it when it turns out to be disappointment.
And every single non-playoff team by August will be the 2024 Commanders, right? Well, they did it. We're going to do it too. Why not? Even though we didn't acquire a Jaden Daniels, but it's going to happen magically. Just because. That's everybody gets excited. But yes, we're here. We got a lot of cold water. We're going to throw it on everybody. We're going to throw cold water on everybody's hopes and dreams and offer the brutal truths of what you're actually facing this offseason.
So let's get rolling. We'll go through every single team. This will be just an exercise in futility. I will start with the Kansas City Chiefs because it's rare that we get to do Sky is Falling. We'll start with the AFC West. I'll start with the Kansas City Chiefs. Sky is falling for the Chiefs because their offensive line sucks, because their offense sucks, and because Andy Reid's about to go to Indianapolis and realize, man, it's too cold. I don't want to do this anymore. Maybe he just looks around and retires. Okay, Andy Reid's probably not going to retire. But aside from all of that, like, we now can at least say, hey, this isn't once, this is twice. We've seen the Chiefs get thumped because they got beat on the line of scrimmage. Like, that doesn't fix itself quickly, Frank. Like, the sky is falling because their offense is taking so many steps back. You can only ask Mahomes to do so much. They're not going to be able to get it right.
Yeah, it's amazing, the deja vu from a few years ago when we're like, how do you let the offensive line get to this disrepair? Here we are a couple of years later. Maybe the Chiefs just aren't good at building an offensive line. I don't know. Like, they kind of fixed it for a couple of years and then it all fell apart. And also, I mean, one thing you didn't even mention, the tight end, the Hall of Fame tight end, maybe the greatest tight end of all time. He's the one who might retire. He might retire. Yeah, he might be running in cement shoes a little bit at the end of his career here, but I think he's kind of done. Just going to tour with Taylor the rest of his life. And that's not a bad life, by the way. So, yeah, the Chiefs, the dynasty's over, right? That's what we're saying. We're done. We're done with the Chiefs. One loss, we're done. That's it. That's over. We're done.
Yeah.
We're washing our hands of the Kansas City Chiefs dynasty.
And it's important to note, if we've just done that, flippantly washed our hands of a dynasty of the Chiefs, that's only going to show you what's to come. You can pick an AFC West team now. Where would you like to go, sir?
I'll take the Chargers. And look, Justin Herbert seemed to turn a corner in the regular season, and then the lights turned on. You know, we all know the video. The lights, turn them off. They're too bright. They're too bright. Well, that's Justin Herbert for you, who has yet to really show up in big games. Like, we've kind of ignored that because he has cool highlights and he's put up stats before. And he actually did play a lot better this year. I do have to admit that, but oof, that playoff game. That playoff game against the Texans kind of brought back all the old criticisms of Justin Herbert. And can he be that dude? Can he be that guy when the lights are the brightest? And I don't know that we know the answer to that question. So maybe playoff Justin is a thing. Maybe we need to keep the lights down low. So Justin Herbert plays well in that, 1 o'clock Pacific time window, but when maybe he's a new Kirk Cousins, just can't play in prime time. Is that that would be a problem for your Los Angeles Chargers now, wouldn't it?
Especially if Harbaugh has already told us that J.J. McCarthy is arguably the greatest college quarterback in the history of all quarterbacks. I mean, maybe he wishes he had J.J. instead. I'm just poking the belly of the beast a little bit. Maybe Justin Herbert for J.J. McCarthy, straight up. Who says no?
Oh my goodness! I can't even go that far. I'm trying to be feisty today. I can't do that, man. Okay,
You're welcome.
Yeah. Now we're off the rails already. We're a few minutes in. We're 2 teams in, and we're completely crazy. Fine, we're trading Justin Herbert for J.J. McCarthy. Oh,
who says no? All right. Well, while we're firing people up, might as well just slay the dragon known as my beloved Raiders. Sam Darnold's going to get paid. He's going to get a big old bag of money. He's going to be straight up Scrooge McDuck lying around in his bed of dollar coins that the Raiders are going to give him, only to return to just being normal Sam Darnold because he no longer has a quarterback whisperer as a head coach that can turn out and create brilliance out of anything. The Vikings are going to end up bummed that they let him walk, and the Raiders are going to end up even more bummed that they paid him, and a mediocre roster is going to have a mediocre quarterback, and then we're all going to sit here and wonder why they had a mediocre at best season, as we're reminded that finding somebody that can beat Mahomes is like finding a needle in a haystack. So the Raiders are screwed, and they're going to overspend on Sam Darnold.
I love that your worst case scenario for your Las Vegas Raiders is acquiring a new quarterback for a lot of money. No. We're not doing that. We are saying Max Crosby's going to look around at some point in training camp and say, I want out of here. Get me out. I'm done. I'm done with this clown show. I need to get out of here. We didn't land Sam Darnold. We landed 42-year-old Aaron Rodgers because Tom Brady doesn't think there's an age cap on how good a quarterback can be. So, yeah, we're not letting you off the hook that easy. If signing Sam Darnold is your brutal, honest truth, I have bad news for you, Fitz. It's going to get a lot worse than that. That's not going to
I've already seen Khalil Mack traded. I don't need to see Khalil Mack and Max Crosby traded. Frank, screw you, Frank. All right. We've gotten too personal.
If you're going to insult the other 31 fan bases, you need to be insulted yourself.
I thought I was insulting like $100 million for a Mac quarterback, but now
we got a new quarterback. No.
Okay.
Yeah, you're probably right about Sam getting overpaid, though. I'll tell you that, yes.
Now that you've put Max getting traded into the ethos, that's all I'm going to think about for the rest of the show and how I'm going to have to react to that here and that.
He just looks so beat every time. It's like, I wish there was a time lapse of like his post-game press conferences from week 1 to week 18, because he looked like he aged like 25 years last season. By week 18, he was just like barely being held up at his locker. Like, oh God, just finish the job. Give me to Cancun. I can't handle this anymore.
Thank you so much for that. You can have the Broncos now, and I just be as tough on them. That's all I ask. Go ahead.
I am surrounded, by the way, by Broncos fans living here in Colorado, and they all think that the rocket ship to the moon has happened. I have bad news for you, Broncos fans. Your ceiling is 3rd place in the AFC West for the foreseeable future. You are the 3rd best team in this division at best. You're better than the Raiders. I mean, come on. But all of a sudden Bo Nix shows up and people think that, like, all right, we're going 15-2 every year. Probably not going to happen. Probably not. You're not the Chiefs, not even the Chargers. You're just stuck 3rd place in your division. Hope you get a wild card every once in a while. Maybe compete a little harder than you did against the Buffalo Bills. That would be nice, wouldn't it? But yes, the Denver Broncos, good solid football team, and is going to finish 3rd place in their division. That's it. You're going to raise some banners. We finished 3rd. Finished 3rd in the AFC West again this year. Good job, guys. That is your ceiling for the foreseeable future for the Denver Broncos.
3rd best currently, I would argue 3rd best coach, 3rd best quarterback, 3rd best team. So congratulations on that. Right, hey. Yeah. I mean, that's just that. There you go. Like it's better than being in the basement. Like there we go.
Yeah, better than being in the basement. Not last. That's what the banner's going to read. Not last place anymore. Like
yeah.
We broke the playoff.
Better
drought.
than the
Okay,
basement. Cool. That is like
better than the
raise
basement. But the Denver
we're
Broncos,
raise a banner.
They're going to be billboards up when I go to the gym later. It's going to be Denver Broncos better than the basement. Yeah, that's going to be where we're at with the Denver Broncos for the foreseeable future, because you just don't have the upside of those two teams. I'm sorry, like that's not happening anytime soon. So yeah, he's still digging out of that Russell Wilson contract and all that. That's still around. So yep, third place in the AFC West. We can kind of just chisel that trophy right now.
Better than the basement. Put it on T-shirts now, Sean Payton. All right, let's go to the AFC South, where the Titans have the first overall pick. Look, the doomsday offseason here is just that. Congratulations, Titans. You got unlucky enough to have the first overall pick in one of the suckiest drafts we can ever remember. You got the first overall pick in a year where even teams that need a quarterback are sitting there saying, oh my God, I'm so glad I didn't get the first overall pick in this one. Like you got the first overall pick in a draft that nobody wants first overall pick. So now you're sitting here saying, well, what if we keep Will Levis? Okay, well, that's a laughable punchline. But also, if you think you're going to trade the pick to somebody, why would anybody trade up in a trash draft to suddenly get a trash quarterback? Or you could sit there and take one of those quarterbacks that probably isn't any better than the already bad situation you've got. So you got the unlucky moment where you, congratulations, were bad enough to get the first overall pick in the draft in a year that generationally, I think could go down as one of the worst drafts we've seen in a long time. So no savior coming at any position, and even worse if you decide you're going to take one of these quarterbacks at the top overall.
Yeah, your two choices here are, okay, we're going to draft Cam Ward, see what he can do for, it might work out, it might, or you draft Abdul Carter and, oh my goodness, what, Mason Rudolph's going to be your quarterback next year? Is that what we're going to do? Like, neither of these options are very good. And you're the Tennessee Titans. You're clearly not a very good football team, by the way. Nashville's beautiful, though, as you well know. Like, great city. Like, at least you're there. Like, but just stay on Broadway. Don't go to these games for the next foreseeable future, because the future is not bright for the Tennessee Titans. You're right. As I've talked about often, as a Milwaukee Bucks fan, to switch sports on you, the Bucks won the lottery years and years ago, and it's like, wow, who we getting? It's like, oh, Andrew Bogut, really? He's the first pick of the draft. Like, we don't get LeBron, we don't get Victor, we get Andrew Bogut. That's what you got. You get the NFL version of Andrew Bogut in this draft, Tennessee Titans fans. I'm sorry to tell you.
That's great. I wonder if we can get some Andrew Bogut jerseys made that say one Titan Bogut on the back, just so everybody knows exactly.
Yeah. He's not a bad thing. He's not bad. He's all right. Like,
sure.
Thanks for your service to Milwaukee. No problem. I am going to go on to the Houston Texans, who, man, a year ago, we're talking about optimism, and the Houston Texans were going to go to Super Bowl, right? And CJ Stroud's going to win an MVP, and we fixed everything, and everybody kind of forgot that they're a really bad franchise and kind of stepped back this year. And maybe CJ Stroud ain't the superstar we thought. Like, I think he's good, but we saw in the second half of the season that CJ struggled. CJ struggled a little bit. Now you're like, well, what is the ceiling? We thought this was going to be like, he's going to be Mahomes' foil for the next few years, and that really didn't develop. Sophomore slumps happen for a reason. CJ Stroud, maybe he's good, not great. Maybe he's Justin Herbert. Like, that's not terrible, but it's not what Houston Texans fans expected a year ago when they were stitching that gold jacket for CJ Stroud all of a sudden. I don't know. Where are we at with CJ Stroud? Is he great, or is he just like, well, I guess he's good, which would be a massive letdown for Texans fans.
What if CJ Stroud is Hootie and the Blowfish? Like, Hootie and the Blowfish's first record, Crack Revere, like one of the biggest selling records of all time. That thing had hit after hit after hit. And then they had to go in and do their second record, and there's a reason nobody remembers the second record or the third record. And eventually, Darius leaves Hootie and becomes his own sort of artist, and we respect Darius. Like, Darius is good. Darius is fine. Everybody enjoys Darius Rucker. I like Darius a lot. Puts on a good show. It's fine. It's fine, but it's not what we all thought Hootie and the Blowfish were going to be when Hootie and the Blowfish first came out. CJ Stroud, what if he's Hootie and the Blowfish? We've seen the one great record, and now we're just going to get fine for the rest of the
we're
time.
Get Fairweather Johnson for the rest of his career.
Oh my God, I love that you knew the record. There we go. That is
I'm
well
here for
played.
you. I'm here for you, man. I got you.
Okay.
What?
That's so well done.
We've killed Texans fans' dreams and hopes now. What you got? Who's next? Who's next on the chopping block?
Let's go. Let's just go plant the honesty bug in the Jags. Guess what, Jags?
Oh,
you
boy.
already ruined Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah,
Congratulations. You took the most ruinable prospect and you ruined him. And now you give him another head coach that we have absolutely no proof of concept that any of it can work on a team that, frankly, sometimes they even admitted it looked like they didn't practice coming into the week. So you're suddenly Liam Cohen's going to be the great whisperer that fixes everything. Liam Cohen that was basically run out of the Rams at one point to go back to Kentucky. That Liam Cohen that, like, what if it was Baker and not Liam? And now you don't even have a damn GM right now. You can't figure out who's running your franchise. You've ruined your quarterback. You're in a bad division, and you're still a bad football team. Like, there's nothing you're going to – you added one of the best young wide receivers we've seen in a long time, and what'd that get you? Still a crappy season. So congratulations. Even when you add talent, you still don't win football games. Like, the Jags are just screwed to be irrelevant for the next 20 years.
They have screwed up Trevor Lawrence. It's unbelievable. They screwed up John Elway. They drafted John Elway in 1983 and somehow turned him into just a guy, right? And by the way, every time I read something on Twitter of like, oh, the Jaguars did this interview for their GM job, I'm like, oh, that's right. They still haven't hired that guy yet. They're going to go to the combine without a GM, right? Like, this is ridiculous. Like, Sean Kahn's on his yacht that we all saw in New Orleans. Like, hey, get my GM on the phone. And they're like, Sean, you ain't got a GM, dude. Like, you ain't hired nobody. So, yeah, not great. Not great. The Jacksonville Jaguars at a pretty bad place. And, yeah, you somehow ruined Trevor Lawrence, it looks like. Yeah, not good, guys. Like, how do you, the one prospect who, this isn't exactly the 2025 draft class. This was Trevor freaking Lawrence. Like, this was can't miss. And he missed because, well, you gave him Urban Meyer his rookie year. Come on. This is not very unserious franchise. Very, very unserious.
The only nice thing about it is we can say whatever we want about the Jags because there are only like 6 fans and they're not all that fired up about them either. Okay, let's go next. I'm just throwing shade everywhere. I am feisty today. All right, you got one more team left in the division. I can't wait to hear what you have to say about Indianapolis.
We already know what it is, right? It's Anthony Richardson. Looks like, hey, like if you watch Anthony Richardson play, and you're like, man, the Colts like drafted that guy in the 6th round, and a really good developmental prospect. Maybe they could get something out of that guy. And then you're like, where was he drafted? Oh, 4th overall? Really? The guy who can't complete 50% of his passes was drafted in the top 4. That's cool. Good job. Like, you didn't want to take the raw prospect who you knew had accuracy problems later in the draft. Like, no, we're getting Josh Allen 2.0. Well, no, that ain't happened. You got a guy who needs to add 15% to his completion percentage just to be the worst quarterback in the NFL still. Like, this is where we're at with Anthony Richardson. I don't know that he can be fixed. And the rest of everybody else, Chris Ballard comes back for kind of a lame duck season, and Shane Steichen barely held on, and they're probably like, oh God, we're hitching our wagon to Anthony Richardson. This ain't great. This is not what we planned on when we drafted Anthony Richardson 4th overall. Everybody talks about taking a big swing in the draft. Oh, we got to swing for a home run. Well, yeah, you have whiffed badly on this one, it looks like. Unless, hey, maybe Anthony Richardson adds 30% to his completion percentage and becomes a viable NFL quarterback next year. Maybe, but things happen. People hit the lottery all the time, right, Fitz?
Yeah, there are still people, by the way, that have Anthony Richardson as a higher rated prospect based on when he came out than Cameron Shador are. I just want to remind everybody that's how. Yeah, there we go. So go get your Zach Wilson or Anthony Richardson with the 1st or 2nd overall pick, please. All right. That continues or finalizes, I should say, the shade throwing at the AFC South. Not easy for me to
South
say.
Stinks, by the way.
Yeah,
it's terrible. Yeah. Like somebody asked me the other day, like what non-playoff team or what team that has 5 or fewer wins this year might make the playoffs? And I'm like, I don't know. Whoever's in the AFC South, because that division just stinks. You could take that division if you want.
That division, like the South is so bad, it's become what's impossible to have happen in the NFL. It's become irrelevant. Like, if somebody is sitting there right now saying, name me every NFL franchise, you know damn well that the one that people are going to get caught up, they're like, oh, wait, AFC South. Who's in the, like, nobody cares. Nobody cares.
No, that's it. Yeah, if we could relegate one of them, yeah, that's it. Just bring the top 4 teams from the SEC, and we'll do that. We'll replace the AFC South with the SEC.
Now, the NFC South might want in on that conversation also. Okay, let's go to the AFC North, and I'll start with one of the most storied franchises in all the NFL. Let's just have an honest moment. Steelers, your problem isn't your coach. Your problem is your quarterback. You don't have a quarterback that can compete with the best of the best in the NFL. You just don't. And guess what? The problem is there is no clear path to a quarterback that can compete with the best in the NFL. So guess what you're going to end up doing? Taking another flyer on another bum that's not going to be good enough, and then everybody by the end of next year is going to be screaming that Mike Tomlin doesn't win enough games without acknowledging that the reason he doesn't win enough games is because you are screwed at the quarterback position. You don't have one. You're not going to get one, and that means next year is going to be lost just like this year was lost, because at the end of the day, you can't compete in the AFC without at least a competent quarterback, and there is no path to one for Pittsburgh.
At least we know, like, George Pickens is going to take this well. Like, he's going to be like, hey,
God.
yeah, I'm a good soldier around here. I don't have a quarterback to throw me the ball. I'm not going to complain. I'm not going to pout. I'm not going to do any of those things. He's a good teammate. Yes, you're right. It's the inevitable battle for old man Aaron Rodgers between the Steelers and Raiders. That is what the offseason is made of. That is what dreams are made of. That is, the bidding war that's going to happen between those two teams for 42-year-old man. Oh, it's going to be beautiful. And yes, they're just going to be like, Justin Fields, fine. Well, let's just run that back. Well, let's do that. Like that. It's not going to be pretty in Pittsburgh. You are correct. This is what happens to most teams when you lose a Hall of Fame quarterback like Ben Roethlisberger. You're stuck in the abyss for a while. They are stuck in the abyss. Kenny Pickett obviously didn't work out, and I don't know how to get a quarterback. Like, not drafted one this year. Go ahead and draft the fifth quarterback in this class. See what happens. So yeah, not great for the Steelers. Not a great outlook when you pretty much have no quarterback. What's T.J. Watt thinking? Like, oh goodness, like really? Okay, another
demand
year.
a trade. I mean, that seems to be the theme. Like TJ's just going to go around and be
sore.
like, you know,
wow,
I don't want to be here.
You're still hurt. You're still hurt.
No.
You wanted to stop the podcast once I mentioned Max's name, didn't you?
The trade. Max is going to be traded. Okay. Speaking of demanding trades, why don't we get to the Browns? And this better be about Miles.
Yeah, just trade him too. We're just trading everybody. Every pass rusher is available now. The Browns, remember back in the day, like this is about 10 years ago, and the Browns had this thing where they looked at the Philadelphia 76ers because goodness knows that's the model you want to pattern yourself after. And they said, we're just going to like lose every game for 3 years. And then we're going to fire Hugh Jackson at the end of it like it's his fault, but we're going to win like 3 games in 3 years. But we're going to have this awesome thing at the end of it where we're going to be a Super Bowl contender, and the process is going to work like it did for the Houston Astros, right? And they got nothing out of it. Nothing at all. And because of one mistake where the Deshaun Watson fiasco, we could call that, they have one playoff win, no division titles. Like, this was the process. This is what you dealt with, like, 0-16 for, to come out on the other side with this. And now you're back to the process because Myles Garrett wants out. Your roster is aging. You have no salary cap space anymore because Deshaun Watson ate all that up. I don't know what you're going to do with Deshaun Watson unless he can get out of that thing for some loopholes based on his second Achilles injury. The Browns are back in the process. You'll look up and they're going to try to pitch this again. They're going to be like, hey, guys, we're just going to go like, 3-44 the next 3 years. But we're going to be really good at the end of it. Oh, no. This process worked out about as well as the Philadelphia 76ers process worked out. And now you're back in the muck. You're the Cleveland Browns again. And what'd you get out of it? You got that one playoff win. You got that Joe Flacco run for 5 weeks. That'll hold you over for a while. So yeah, Browns, this was the big payoff for the process to win nothing, to win absolutely nothing of consequence.
Yeah, the only good news is you're delaying the inevitable of firing everybody and starting all over. I don't even know if that's good news. We've never seen. I think at this point we can fairly say that the Deshaun Watson contract has become the worst contract in the history of sports.
You didn't think that Russell Wilson could be topped so quickly, right? Like you're boy, that Russ contract's gonna. Oh no, we got a new number one at the top of the board. Yep.
Yeah, it is absolutely the greatest bust conversation. Like the worst contract conversation is the only thing that the Browns are going to win for the next 20 years. So congratulations on that. You won some sort of a conversation.
Now I want to hear about a team that maybe has screwed up their Super Bowl window completely by not addressing one side of the ball that's blowing a generational quarterback. Who do you got for me? Do you have anybody?
Look, the Cincinnati Bengals are sitting here saying, Yeah, and I hear Burrow say, well, you know what? The Eagles are finding a way to pay everybody. Okay, couple of things here. Howie Roseman signs everybody early, okay? So
Yeah, you
part
don't
of the
wait on
key...
Jamar Chase. You're not Mike Brown saying, we don't want to negotiate a contract during the season. Okay, cool. Your guy's going to win a Triple Crown. Good job.
The Bengals are acting like the Cowboys, waiting forever to sign, and then they're trying to pretend that they can be the Eagles and get the benefit of signing early. Like, you can't have both of those things at the same time. And then the other part of it is like, okay, the other key to being the Philadelphia Eagles is drafting incredibly well on the defensive side of the ball. When have we seen the Bengals do that? Like, if you're going to pay everybody on offense, you better be able to hit home run after home run after home run on the defensive side of the ball. The Bengals can't even hit singles on the defensive side of the ball. Like, they fired everybody, and now they're sitting here with three of their most important players all trying to figure out what's going on with contracts and no defense. Like, did I miss something? The page on how to beat the Chiefs is to dominate them on the offensive line, and the Bengals don't have a way to do that at all. So all they've got is an offense they're going to run back coming off of a year where, like, that offense was very good, and that got them to 9 wins. Like, congratulations. Bengals fans, if you want to spend the rest of your life being the team that nobody really wants to face when we get into the playoffs, maybe you found the method to that. If you actually want to be a consistent playoff team, you have done everything the wrong way, and you're going to be screwed this year because of it.
Yeah, you know how hard it is in the NFL to have an MVP quarterback? Because Joe Burrow was clearly an MVP level quarterback this year. Do you know how hard it is to have that and not make the playoffs? Like, you have to actively try to be bad. Like, you have to actively be like, we're going to challenge ourselves. We're gonna see if we can not make the playoffs with Joe Burrow leading the NFL in passing yards and passing touchdowns. And by the way, they're going to screw up the T. Higgins thing too. Like, there's like, oh, now we're going to sign T. Higgins. Yeah, right. Just like you re-signed Jamar Chase to a contract. Like, it's the Bengals. They're going to end up. T. Higgins is going to be in Washington this year because they're just going to be like, hey, we tried, but he wanted too much money. Yeah, he wants a lot of money. Yeah, that's because he didn't sign him early enough.
1,000. Like, again. Look at the wide receiver list on the guys that have been paid in advance, and it's a huge part of how you build these things. All right, what about the Ravens? The Ravens coming off a very good year. So is this hard? Can Frank find a way to bring the Ravens down to earth?
Oh, of course I can, because, okay, so for many years, you're like, who is the best quarterback of all time not to make a Super Bowl? And you probably say Dan Fouts, right? Like, he was with those Chargers teams that were good but never got there, so he never even played. Like, Dan Marino obviously famously never won one. At least he made one in 1984 Dolphins, right? Like, at least he was in there once. I think Lamar Jackson right now is the greatest quarterback of all time never to make a Super Bowl. And I keep fighting back to all these fans who are like, Lamar, he's never going to win the big one. He's never going to win the big one. But at some point, it's like, well, I don't know. You got to win one at some point. And Lamar has not done that, not any fault of his own. The Ravens, somehow, a great organization usually, has absolutely failed him. And we're going to get to I think Lamar Jackson is top 10-ish all-time quarterback. And he hasn't made a Super Bowl yet. It's hard to do. That's hard to do when you got a guy who should have won 3 MVPs, by the way. He should have beat Josh Allen this year, but that's a different conversation. You're ruining this guy. You are missing every opportunity to make a Super Bowl. One of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And yes, he is a much different player, but maybe the new Dan Fouts, and that he is going to be the greatest quarterback of all time never to make a Super Bowl. That would be one heck of a legacy for the Baltimore Ravens in this era.
Yeah. Also, I will just add that while it seems that Derrick Henry has drank from the fountain of youth, at some point that runs out. So you wasted a year of Derrick Henry. Yeah. You wasted a year of that. So congratulations on that. Best Super Bowl or best quarterback ever to not get to a Super Bowl right now, if you think it's Lamar, could become Josh Allen. Like, let's move over to the AFC East.
Here's
the thing. Bills fans, everybody's getting fired. Let's just be honest for a second here. Like, Bills fans are frustrated by the way the season ends every year, and I get it. You just can't seem to get that monkey off your back. Can't figure out a way to get through Kansas City. There's no easy answer on how to get through Kansas City. It just feels like you are cursed, and at some point when you're cursed against them, then you just start looking around and say, well, we got to change something. This feels like that sort of a year. I mean, all the Bills did was dominate all year. All the Bills did was play the way I thought they would all year. Really good football team, and then we get to the playoffs, and it doesn't doesn't matter because somehow, some way you lose. And when you lose somehow, some way, and there's no easy way to figure it out, now all of a sudden you're looking around. It's like, you feel it in your bones. This is a Bills team that can't get over the hump. And as a result, they'll go through another year where they win 13 or 14 games and they beat up on a really sorry-ass AFC East. Then they'll lose in the playoffs. And then the Bills will turn around and say, well, now we got to fire everybody. And they will. Like, they'll get a new coach. They'll get a new GM. They'll get a new everything if that's what it takes. Because that's the thing that will get them over the top, only to realize that they're cursed and they're just never going to get over the top. I wish I had an easier answer. But if your answer is that Lamar is about to be the best quarterback to win a Super Bowl, I think Josh Allen could say, hold my beer to that. And next year, we're going to sit here the entire year just degrading their MVP-like performances because it won't lead to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and especially with the Bills, you're like, oh, we can't get over the hump of the Chiefs. But you're sitting there telling yourself for 2 weeks, like, well, the Chiefs are unbelievable. They're this great dynasty. They're going to go win a Super Bowl. And then they get beat like 98-6 in the Super Bowl. And you're like, wow, we couldn't beat that team. Really? Okay. It was a sobering moment, I think, for Bills fans to say, oh, yeah, it's not just that the Chiefs are this great. Maybe we just can't beat them. Maybe we just cannot beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And that when you go into the playoffs looking at the bracket hoping you avoid a certain team, that ain't a good feeling. So yeah, probably not great for Bills fans to come into an offseason saying, well, our ceiling is hopefully we don't have to face the Chiefs in the playoffs. That's it. That's our hope. That's our hopes and dreams. Like, we're the Chiefs in the bracket. Let's try to avoid them.
If the Chiefs lose before they take on the Bills, full parade in Buffalo. That's the inevitability.
Yeah, that's all we got. Yeah, sorry, Bills fans, and now you got Buffalo winter. Like that even makes it even worse.
All right, give me what you got. Who do you want to take in the East?
I will go with the Jets because, oh my goodness, is this low hanging fruit? Like, all right, it's been 14 years for the Jets to not make the playoffs. Famously, the longest drought in professional sports to not make the playoffs. It's going to hit 20. Like, this team was built to win in 2024. Did not even sniff a playoff spot. Yes, I did pick them to make the Super Bowl. Thanks to everybody who's reminded me of that. I appreciate it. Will not make that mistake again. The Jets have terrible ownership with an owner who's listening to his teenage son's Madden rating rants, and that now they don't have a quarterback anymore. That's going to help. A lot of veterans who were brought on just to appease the quarterback is no longer there. They're going to be gone. So yeah, a couple of young players who are probably going to be like, man, I need to get out of here. I know you're still hurt that I tried to trade Max Crosby from you, but at some point, guys like Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams and Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, they're going to be like, I don't want a part of this anymore. This playoff drought is going to reach 20 years. That is my guess, my prediction for the New York Jets. 20 years, no playoffs, because I think they have 6 bad years to go, because this is a complete rebuild right now. They were all in, and you know what happens when you're all in and you have to flip those cards over and you got rags. Like, you didn't even have a hand. That was the New York Jets. They went all in with nothing. They got called down, and now they just have nothing. They're down to the felt. They got nothing left.
Jets suck. Look, and I screamed it at the time when they were changing their roster over and going with a bunch of guys that Aaron wanted, and Jets fans just continually got up on my menchies about how I'm ignorant and they weren't changing the roster over. The roster wasn't getting older. It was being done perfectly. It was a masterclass. Well, now where are you sitting, Jets fans? All right, let's just be honest. Now you can be honest with yourself and look at the entire chapter of Aaron Rodgers and acknowledge that it was a massive organizational failure from top to bottom. And now you got to dig your way out of it. And, you know, that's what happens. Now you got to dig your way out of it. And you're right. By the time they're actually good, the guys that you mentioned that are young will be out of their window of wanting to be part of any of this or being able to be the part of it they need to be. Complete rebuild starts for the Jets again in a year where there's no quarterback that it's immediately going to help you. So
Kirk
congratulations.
Cousins, come on down. Yeah, great.
Come on. Oh, God.
Oh, God. What fun.
No, I thought I was afraid of Aaron Rodgers. Speaking of quarterbacks, Dolphins fans, you're screwed. Let's just... Every year, Dolphins fans sit there and say, no, you can't take it. It's not Tua's fault. Tua's going to be fine. Everybody's talking about the health. And I've been long since a defender on Tua's talking to his family and his doctors, and he knows what's best for his body. I'm not going to tell him to retire or whatever. Well, you got to look at it at some point and say, no matter what you think, none of the expectations have been met. And now you got a Tyreek Hill that may or may not actually want to be there, that's going to be racing Olympians, and you're all just going to hold your breath hoping he doesn't pull a hammy in that process with the quarterback that is healthy sometimes and not healthy sometimes, and a head coach that has lost a little bit of his shine through all of this. And now all of a sudden, by the way, they got a bunch of salary cap stuff to fix. I would just ask this. Dolphins fans, ask yourself the real question. If you don't beat that Broncos team, what was it, 70-0? If you don't lay that on the world, do we see this Dolphins team the same way? I think that one outcome changed the entire way we viewed this offense and this organization, and it's lasted for years. And now you're actually looking in the mirror and seeing the reality. And the reality is you got a lot of speed, but you got health issues that can't help you with it. You can't seem to put together a dynamic game plan that can make it through all 60 minutes. You only beat up on bad teams consistently year in and year out, and none of that's a path to actually beating the Bills. So you're going to be mediocre, and mediocre is going to get everybody fired. You're going to be looking for a quarterback in a year and maybe a head coach. Sorry.
Yeah, I can't disagree with any of that. And all this speed the Dolphins had, like all of a sudden Tyreek Hill did look like a 30-year-old receiver. Jalen Waddle, I don't know if he played last year. I'm not even sure. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he did. You have no proof to tell me he was on the field at any point last year. And then Devin Achane goes from like the next Chris Johnson to like the master of catching 3-yard screen passes and never breaking an explosive run anymore. So yes, a lot of the shine off Mike McDaniel. Guys aren't even showing up on time anymore. Like just a complete culture failure. For as much hope as we had for the Dolphins last year, all gone. All's vanished. The Dolphins are just back to being the Dolphins, you know.
All right, give me what you got. We got one team left in the division, the dreaded Patriots.
Patriots have a quarterback. That's the good news. Good for you. Drake May, good guy. And the rest of the team around him. Would you take Georgia, University of Georgia right now, or University of Alabama right now over the New England Patriots roster-wise? Would you just do a roster swap? Like at that point, I might. Like this Patriots roster needs so much work. And I don't know how you fill like 40 spots in one off season, because that's what they need. You draft like Jalen Polk, who catches like one pass for 3 yards in the last 10 games of the season. And there's just no talent on this team other than quarterback, which you might ruin him. He might be the next David Carr, getting beat up on a bad team for a while. So, hey, Patriots fans, you kind of deserve this. You had 20 years of the most unprecedented run in NFL history to win title after title after title, and you really annoyed us all. We're just gloating about that every single day, and I get it. Like, yeah, okay, that's cool. You had Tom Brady. Well, Tom Brady don't work here no more, and neither does Rob Gronkowski or Randy Moss or Wes Welker or basically any of the good players you had. Now you're just stuck with Drake May, who's trying to just carry an entire franchise on his shoulders because they've done absolutely nothing to help him.
I will also just remind people that Mike Vrabel went 9-7 his first 2 years with the Titans, then 11-5 and 12-5, which is very good. But he ended with very untalented Titans teams. I will acquiesce that, going 7-10 and 6-11. I believe Vrabel's a home run hire, but Patriots fans, y'all talking about Vrabel like he's Tomlin, like he's never had a losing season. He's had a couple of them back to back. That's why he got fired.
That's second to last season. They lost like their last 7 games, I think. Like if you look at like he's lost like 20 of his last 26 or whatever. Like whatever that stat is, it's really not pretty. And yes, now he goes to a team. He's gonna go in that first team meeting and be like, oh my goodness, there's gonna be like 5 guys here in 3 years. Like this ain't the team I want.
All right, we're going to take a look at the NFC next. First, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to continue to bring this ray of sunshine to the National Football Conference next. All right, Frank, let's take a look at the NFC East, and I'll start with the Dallas Cowboys. This is the most backhanded compliment way of bringing Cowboys fans back to earth. Now, Cowboys fans, you're going to be just fine. Now, that's all you're going to be. Is just fine. In fact, I looked it up. The last time the Dallas Cowboys had back-to-back losing seasons, they had 3 straight losing seasons in 2000, 2001, and 2002. They haven't had back-to-back losing seasons since then. So the concept that the Cowboys suddenly suck, to me, is just not real. More likely than not, Jerry Jones has done a very good job throughout his entire career of finding coaches that can win games. So Shawnee can probably win you some games, and you're going to win some games. But if you're one of these Cowboys fans that is sitting here, woe is me, crying from the mountaintops, we haven't won a Super Bowl since the 90s. You know what? There are a ton of teams that haven't won a Super Bowl since the 90s. Get over yourself. Browns fans haven't won a Super Bowl since the 90s. The Raiders haven't won a Super Bowl since the 90s. The Bills would love
80s,
to say
80s,
we've won
80s.
I know, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm saying. Like,
That's
the
fine.
Browns have never won a Super Bowl. The Bills would sit here and kill to have the opportunity to just say they won one of those Super Bowls that they lost to the Cowboys. So guess what, Cowboys? Your awakening here, Cowboys fans, is you're not special. You're just like the rest of the NFL. More often than not, your team doesn't win the Super Bowl. So yeah, you're a big brand with the big star, and that's going to be awesome. And you're going to win enough games to be relevant because that's what you do. And at the end of the day, you're not going to win the Super Bowl because you don't win the Super Bowl because you're just like everybody else. You're normal. You just happen to be the normal fan base that thinks you're special when you're really not.
Yeah, I find it funny that Cowboys fans every single day for 3 years basically were like, fire Mike McCarthy. We did an upgrade. Then they they'll bring back Mike McCarthy. Whatever happened, we know. And then they're like, here's our new coach, Brian Schottenheimer. Cowboys fans probably wish they had Mike McCarthy back. That's your penance for wishing your coach to be fired every single day for years and years. You get kind of the copy of the copy, like, oh, hey, wow, we get the offensive coordinator under Mike McCarthy who didn't call plays. Great. That'll break this Super Bowl drought. I'm sure that's coming along anytime for you now, Cowboys fans. You're right. They're going to just be kind of getting into this boring, mediocre phase where they're like, okay, wow, we won 9 games again. That's awesome. Like, yeah, there's no ceiling. And now you're probably the third best team in the NFC East going forward at best. So now you're better than Giants. Oh, goodness. I can't even believe I said maybe. Yeah, you're the third best team in the NFC East. Huzzah! Good job. You are the Broncos of Texas. You are the third best team in your division with no hope to be second or first.
All right, so you've got the unenviable task of the Super Bowl champions here. How are you going to bring the Super Bowl champions down to earth?
I thought about this for a while. What can we, how can we bring Philly fans down? They're feeling good. They're climbing light posts, right? They're throwing beers at all their players. They're in a parade. And I'm here to tell you, Philly fans, that the 76ers stink. The Flyers stink. The Phillies are going to finish third in the NL East. You can't have it all, okay? You get the Eagles. I'll give you that. The Eagles are great. They're going to be good for a long time. But the rest of your year, you better just keep rewatching that Super Bowl because Joel Embiid is broke down on the side of the road. The Flyers are never going to figure it out. The Phillies are, whatever. They're fine, I guess. But that's what you get. You can't have it all. You're not getting all 4 sports where everybody's good. Your other 3 pro sports teams stink. You do got the Eagles. I can't even sit here and pretend, Fitz. Like, I'm sure by the end of the summer we're gonna be like, oh, Super Bowl hangover, blah blah blah. No, they're a good team. I can't even rain on their parade today. I'm in a salty mood and got nothing for them other than yes. You got to watch the 76ers team. That's what you watch every 76ers game the rest of the season to just remind yourselves that it's not always great.
The only thing I'd say is that if there's anything we can guarantee, Eagles fans are going to be pissed off a month into the season if the team starts slow.
They probably want to fire Sirianni by
Jalen Hurts sucks and fire Sirianni.
Yeah.
We got lucky last year. Like the Eagles are going to be fine. It's Eagles fans that are just roll my eyes to the way they're going to be acting in October if their team even remotely starts slow. It's Ryan Day at Ohio State all over again. That's all I'm saying. All right, I'll give you the Giants on this. And look, Frank,
good.
We all know.
Yeah,
we all have a friend.
You're the Giants. You're the Giants.
Yeah, I know. We all have a friend that we know is in just the worst relationship ever. And they come in one day and they're like, well, I asked her to marry me. And the whole time we're like, why? And he said, well, it was time. Like, we've been together for several years. It's time. That's the right next step. That's how I feel like the Giants are approaching the draft. We need a quarterback. It's time. We're just going to settle down. We're going to go ahead and pop the question to one of these 2 quarterbacks at the top of the draft, and neither one of them is worth it. So all of a sudden, because here's the question you got to ask yourself. For our buddy that goes out and pops the question and decides he's going to get married because it's time, how often does that marriage end up joyous? How often do you look at that couple in 5 years and say, oh my God, they love each other so much. It's a beautiful, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So inevitably in 3 years when save your wedding gift for whoever the Giants draft, because in 3 years when they've inevitably divorced, I'm going to want that toaster back. And that's what it feels like is happening. You ain't getting my toaster. I'm holding my toaster. You don't get the toaster till you've made it to your 5-year anniversary. Till I see a second contract to that quarterback that they're inevitably going to overdraft, you ain't getting my toaster.
I saw, various things being like, well, the Giants are not going to give up the third pick of the draft for Matthew Stafford in a trade. Like, what? Is this even on the table? Like, who would even ask that? Like, Matthew Stafford probably retires the day after he gets traded to the Giants, if that ever happens. So, yeah, don't trade the third pick of the draft for Matthew Stafford. Let's not think about that. Or even like a third round pick for Matthew Stafford at this point in his career. Like, yeah, the Giants are just the Giants. Like, and watching Saquon Barkley do his thing and win a title in Philly was just like, how can you even watch Giants games anymore? Like, this is again another unserious franchise where you're just like, oh god, we had to go watch this guy who was supposed to be a generational prospect at running back, and he ended up being a generational prospect at running back. It just took going to a real NFL team to get it out of him.
All right, so give me what you got on the command. Tough one. You get another tough one to bring down because Commanders fans are pretty happy.
They're feeling great, right? Oh, we got all this cap room. We got Jaden Daniels. We're going to build it up. And I'm here to tell you, good for you. You're going to build up to be the second best team in the NFC East because you're just not the Eagles. Like, the Eagles are probably starting a dynasty right now. I hate to tell you this, but that they're probably the next Chiefs. Like, look at that roster. Look at how young, they're the youngest defense in the NFL. And so you're going to build and build and build and be like, wow, we're a wild card again. Like, we're never going to get a home playoff game. Like, great. Awesome. Well, way to go. So, yep. Washington, Jaden Daniels is great. We love him. He's awesome. He's going to be fun to watch, and he's going to be fun to watch in all these road playoff games because you're never going to win the NFC East with the Eagles being at the peak of their powers. So, yeah, it's tough to win a Super Bowl when you never can win your division, right? Like, when you're the second best team in your division, it's going to be tough to have Super Bowl dreams. I know everybody in Washington's excited, as they should be after watching miserable football for more than 2 decades. And that's great. If you really want to watch a championship team, though, you're probably going to watch the Philadelphia Eagles because that team's going to own that division for the next however many years. Like, Jaden Daniels, like, might take over as the greatest quarterback to never win his division. Like, who knows? Like, we can't be guaranteeing you that you're ever going to finish above the Eagles in the next 10 years.
All right, so let's take a look at the NFC North. I got the Bears here. This one's simple. Caleb and Ben Johnson never mesh. It's not a match made in heaven. I don't care what you say. Like, Ben Johnson had success with a much different style of quarterback than Caleb. So Caleb won't mess with Ben Johnson. This one's simple. All of a sudden, they're back to the drawing board because they just spent all this money on a coach, and they're going to realize that it's not a good combo with their quarterback. And before you know it, their offense is dysfunctional, and we're trying to figure out who's the real problem and who's getting fired. That one's easy.
Yeah, I can imagine the first meeting between Ben Johnson and Caleb when we're going to talk about the offense now, Caleb. And Ben's going to say, okay, with Jared Goff, we got rid of the ball really quickly to our playmakers. And Caleb's just going to give him a blank stare. Like, what do you mean? Like, Ben's going to say, well, you get rid of the ball quickly, like 3-step drop and get it out. And he's going to, what? That's not possible. And it's just going to be that way the whole time because Caleb loves holding the ball more than I loved holding my child, like when she was born. Like, he just will hold it and hold it and hold it. And Ben Johnson is just going to lose his mind every time Caleb just holds it and holds it and holds it and ends up running around and taking one of his 67 sacks on the season. So, yes, when we say this won't mesh, I can see where you're coming from because love something like Caleb Williams loves holding the ball in the pocket, and Ben Johnson's going to be longing for the days of Jared Goff. Like that's where we're at. That's where, and Bears fans are going to be like, why didn't we just draft Jaden Daniels? Like, it was right there. You want a Heisman. Goodness, why couldn't we just drafted Jaden Daniels?
All right, give me the Packers, a team you know well. All right, so what do you got on the Packers?
The Packers are interesting because they're a lot to like, right? And but then you look around and you say, well, they got a lot of good players. I don't think they have one great player. Like, name one guy on that team you think is going to win an award someday. And I really can't do it. Like, they're just got a bunch of good players. They're good. They're like the people of Wisconsin, my home state. Like, they're just good people, good players, are polite and nice. And there's not one alpha dog in the whole group, and that might include a quarterback, by the way. I don't think Jordan Love's ever going to win an MVP. Maybe you do. Maybe he does. I don't know. But we've seen enough up and down play from him where I'm not putting him in that category. And then you look, it's like, is Josh Jacobs ever going to be the best running back in football? No. Is somebody like Christian Watson ever going to be the best receiver of football? Probably not. You look around the rest of the teams, it's like somebody's got a Justin Jefferson, or you got the running back duo in Detroit, or Penei Sewell, or guys who are absolutely positively the best at their position in the NFL. And then you get to the Packers, and you're like, you're good. Yeah, you're probably going to just be that 11-win team forever because you don't have that guy to take you to the next level.
All right, I'll go to the Lions because I agree with everything you just said. I'll go to the Lions. This one's easy. All right. You can't win when it matters most. When you're up against the wall, health was an issue this year, but now you're also replacing 2 coordinators. I mean, let's be honest, we saw replacing two coordinators take Philly from the Super Bowl to absolute just the bottom of the barrel and have to work their way back through it. This presumption that Dan Campbell is just going to replace two of the best coordinators in the league and not have a drop-off to me is fairly asinine. And on top of that, they're going to have to look in the mirror and figure out why. There's been a couple of games last year where their superstar quarterback decided that he preferred throwing the ball to the other team. You got to figure out some of this pressure. Like, it feels like as the pressure mounts, the Lions are incapable of handling it, and it feels like they're going to have so much changeover on their staff. It's easy to see the Lions take a big old step back.
You know what I saw, like when we were in New Orleans, I'm sure you saw this too, like mostly Eagles fans. And then obviously second was the Chiefs. Third was the Lions. I saw so many Lions jerseys and I just felt bad for those people. Like, you booked this in December, didn't you? You booked this trip.
Yep.
You were like, we're going to the Super Bowl. And I saw so many Goff and Aiden Hutchinson and all these jerseys. And I just looked at them all like, oh man, that's a lot of wasted money because your team's probably not making the Super Bowl. The conversation you're going to have in 10 years isn't going to be remembering some great Super Bowl win. It's going to be, which loss was worse? Was it the NFC Championship game against the 49ers? Or was it when we got blown out at home by the Commanders? Like, and that's going to be the conversation in Detroit in 10 years because, hey, who knows? Maybe your window is closed. Like you said, losing to coordinators is, that's bad. That's bad. That it ain't going to work out well for you when you have two guys who were, maybe 2 and 3 on the list of coveted candidates in this opening cycle behind Mike Vrabel. You lost both of them. It speaks to how good they were, but you didn't even make a Super Bowl through them. And now you got to try to replace those guys. Yeah, good luck. That doesn't always work as well as you think it does.
Where are you on the Vikings?
I think that, the Vikings were last year going into that massive Week 18 game, which might have been the greatest matchup on paper in NFL regular season history. 14-2, feeling great. Got blown out in that game. Got blasted by the Rams. And now you might be back to last place. Like, let's say that the Bears thing does work out with Ben Johnson. All of a sudden, are you kind of the worst team in that division again? Like, it could happen. We've never seen JJ McCarthy play, if he's your answer. Don't know that now Sam Darnold's got to get paid. What you're going to do with him if you lose him, and you just put in JJ McCarthy sight unseen after a couple of knee surgeries. I don't know that this works out as well as Vikings fans think it's going to work out. And there's a very real scenario where you go from, hey, we're 14-2, we could be the number 1 seed in the NFC, all the way down to, hey, we're 4th place in the NFC North. Like that's a very real possibility for the Vikings. I'm sorry, Vikings fans, but yeah, you had a magical season that kind of produced nothing.
Yeah, we've seen not a single snap of meaningful football from J.J. McCarthy, so I'm not going to presume that he steps in and wins 14 games minute one. All right, take a quick break. We can get to the rest of the NFC next as we continue to give out flowers of sorts to everybody. All right, Frank, the Saints feel pretty easy to me. This one's easy to figure out. Kellen Moore's going to get in there and realize that Derek Carr sucks. And then Kellen Moore is going to actually figure out a way to be the quarterback and the head coach at the same time because there's no other better option. And before you know it, you've got coach, quarterback combo playing, and he doesn't work in either direction. The Saints absolutely fall apart. I want the Saints to be good. I really do. Like, I think, there's a charm. You and I both spent a lot of time in New Orleans. I want to find that charm for that Saints organization. I just happen to think that they're bad in the wrong places and they're overpriced in the wrong places. And man, you got to rip the Band-Aid off. So the only thing that you've got going for you right now, Saints fans, is great food and great music. Go enjoy Bourbon Street. Stop worrying about your football team for the next few years.
Yeah, you're in New Orleans. Beautiful city. Awesome city. Love it there. But yes, your football team might stink for a while because your two options for this offseason are, as you said, rip the Band-Aid off, get rid of everybody, all these aging veterans, and dump a lot of the salary cap stuff, or do what you've done the past however many years and just get out the credit card, keep spending and spending and spending to keep this core together that has a ceiling of like 9 wins. And you just pray that the rest of the NFC South stinks. Like that, those are 2 options. What an offseason. How excited would you be for that?
Just pray the rest of them stay. All right, give me somebody else in the NFC South. Who you taking first?
I'll go with the Falcons because I'm reminded that there's 2 sides of NFL football. 3 if you count special teams. The Falcons have not figured this out. They're like, ooh, offense. Look at all the offensive pieces we have. Michael Penix is going to be awesome, and he might. But you've ignored the defense for years and years and years and years. I saw some stat where they had the fewest sacks in the NFL over the last 5 years, over the last 10 years, over the last 15 years. When's the last time the Falcons had a pass rusher? Like, I guess we're trading every pass rusher today, so maybe they can get one of them. But I just am astounded by the fact that the Falcons can't figure out in 2025 that you need to rush a passer to have a decent defense. They've never figured this out. And I just, what's their upside with that defense that's been terrible for years and years and years? Like, you're going to score a lot of points. That'll be fun to watch. You're also going to give up probably more points in most of the games you play in. So, yeah, Falcons fans, I'm sorry. But in football, there are 3 phases to it. Special teams are all right, I guess. Your offense is probably going to be fun. And your defense is just, it is what it is. It's Swiss cheese. It's just nobody, that defense ain't stopping nobody.
I'm going to be consistent, too, and just remind you that I'm not going to sit here and make Michael Penix Jr. the next superstar quarterback till we've seen more than a handful of games. Same thing I said about Jordan Love. I'll continue to say that. Speaking of quarterbacks, the Bucs, it's easy to get Baker a lot of love in this, but let's just be honest for a second, Bucs fans. Y'all got to look in the mirror and just accept who you are. You're mediocre and irrelevant. Like, you're going to win some divisions. Like, you win a bad division repeatedly. I give you a ton of credit for that. Hey, at least you're winning your division. But nobody's sitting around the offseason shaking in their boots thinking, oh, my God, how do we stop? And that's despite the Buccaneers having plenty of offensive brand talent. Like we watch this team. There are some talented pieces on that team offensively particularly, but the team as a whole just it's as mid as can be in a division that's mid as can be. And it's a reminder that for the most part, take out the couple of years with Brady, the Buccaneers are who they always are. They're a team that's around an 8 or 9 win team every year. That's never bad enough to really piss anybody off and never good enough to really scare anybody, which is exactly what you're going to be again this year.
However, they have figured out what's really important in the NFL, and that's getting Mike Evans 1,000 yards. And they can do that. 100%. Hey, like they got that. They have figured that part of the game out. So at least you got that, Buccaneers fans. You'll get Mike Evans 1,000 yards on the last play of the season again next year.
And what about Carolina?
David Tepper still owns them, I believe. So you're always like one temper tantrum away from everything getting turned over.
One temper tantrum? Can we make it a temper tantrum?
Temper tantrum. I like that. We should trademark that before this show goes up. Like, we need to sell T-shirts or something, because we know that David Tepper, even if we saw some signs of life for Bryce Young, and all of a sudden, like, okay, now we can start building around the quarterback. They could be in the middle of September, lose 2 straight games, and David Tepper just wants to change everything and fires his coach. And we know this. We know this is probably coming. He's the new Dan Snyder. So yes, Panthers fans, I'm sorry, you can't change owners. And this guy is again a couple of bad losses, one losing streak away from just deciding to change the entire direction of the franchise once again.
The new Dan Snyder. God, that just hurts when you say it because it's so accurate. Hard. All right. The NFC West, that's our last division. I'll start with the 49ers, who quite simply are just old and washed. Like, this thing went so quickly off the rails. They went from being perennial Super Bowl contenders to being a team that, one of their biggest stars is on the trade market right now. On the defensive side of the ball, they were as injured as I can remember. It feels like guys are just constantly off the field and not on the field because of the injuries. And by the way, they got a quarterback in Brock Purdy that I don't think got any easier to make some hard answers to. Like, you know me, I've been pro Brock, and now I'm sitting around saying, well, damn, I wouldn't want to pay him. So now I got a quarterback that I'm not really sure I want to play with a bunch of offensive weapons that, may or may not be around, with a bunch of contracts that are going to get elevated, with a bunch of age issues all over this thing fell off the rails quickly, and now they are just going to be in that sea of suck for a minute.
Might be, yes, a lot of their guys, you look at their age, you're like, ooh, wow. And yes, you're going to look at the zeros behind Brock Purdy's contract and be like, ooh, that's a lot. Yeah, he's going to get paid. He's been playing for like minimum wage. Like, he's getting like $10 an hour to play quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. He is going to want to get paid, and he will get paid by the San Francisco 49ers, because that's just what teams do. But yes, this all of a sudden the milk went sour really quickly in San Francisco. And usually when the milk goes sour, it doesn't return. Like, you don't go back to the fridge the next day and smell it again. And hey, wow, this milk went good again. Like, great. Pour it on my cereal. I'm great. No. Usually when the milk goes bad, it stays bad. And I think you might be right. It might stay bad for the 49ers, especially Brock Purdy making 50, 60, however many million Brock Purdy's going to make. It doesn't make it easier to build that roster around him.
All right, what about the Seahawks, Frank?
So many times over the past few years, we've searched for that midpoint quarterback, right? The quarterback where you're like, yeah, I guess. It's pretty much been Derek Carr, right? Like, Derek Carr is like the quarterback where you're like, yeah, guess we could do worse than Derek Carr, and that we're never going anywhere with him. Well, congratulations, Seahawks fans. We found the new midpoint quarterback in the NFL, and it's Geno Smith. He's a quarterback. You're like, yeah, we could do worse, but we're probably not winning anything with him either. Like, he's just that guy. Like, that's who he is now. Geno Smith is the midpoint. He is the Mendoza line of quarterbacks. He is hey, is your quarterback above or below the Geno line? Like that's what it's going to be the next few years. And that's what the Seahawks said. They try to talk themselves into it. Mike McDonald was like, we can't wait to have Geno back. He's our quarterback. We love him. Yeah, we know you probably don't love him. You like him. He's fine. Like, cool. Again, you could do worse. You could have Daniel Jones next year or something. But yeah, Geno, kind of the midpoint quarterback in the NFL right now, Fitz.
And he's throwing to so much talent with talent around him all over the place. Like to be that level of mid when you are surrounded by that level of talent is it's a waste. It's a waste, Seahawks fans. All right, how about the Rams? This one's easy for me. Stafford may or may not want to play. Nobody knows if he's really worth the money. Nobody knows if he wants to make a long-term commitment. Then I just keep thinking about, wasn't that long ago that, frankly, Sean McVay was like, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. I got to love my family. All these, Rams fans just get used to it. Like, this is going to be one of those years where your quarterback and your team can't come to an agreement. They part ways, and then all of a sudden you realize you don't have a quarterback. McVay's going to suffer through this for a year and then realize he doesn't want to do it anymore. And by the end of the season, you're looking for a new quarterback and a new coach and a complete rebuild that starts all the way from ground zero, all the way up to the top. And that is a frightening spot to be in for an organization. The Rams will be there by December.
Yeah, but amazingly, from what I see on Twitter, the Giants are just going to trade for Matthew Stafford, and the Rams will be fine. I don't know. So,
yeah, for like a fifth-round draft pick, too. Like, Giants fans are convinced.
It's all of a sudden, it's going to be like the Rams are going to be like, we're going to trade Stafford for a lot, right? No. It's probably not going to happen. It's just like, oh, now we just don't have a quarterback and don't have really a good pick either. So, yeah, I could kind of see it going sideways for them. Why do they want to trade everybody all the time? Like, just calm down. Like, just live out the Matt Stafford years. Let him retire. Ram. Like he won your ring. Like let's not just trade everybody, right?
Maybe all the mediocre quarterbacks in the league could be put in one little draft system, and then everybody could just
rotate every week. Like this week, this week the Rams get Matthew Stafford. Next week the Giants get Matthew Stafford. This week the Seahawks get Matthew Stafford. That would be fun, right? We just carousel them through the quarterbacks around the league, teams that need help at the position.
All right, so why don't we'll finish this up with the Cardinals. I can't believe that we've saved a team as important as the Cardinals for last.
All three Cardinals fans were just waiting on pins and needles, right? Oh, what are they going to say about us?
They've listened to the whole hour at this point. They're like, oh my God, finally we get to Arizona.
They find something better to do with Phoenix, I'll tell you that. Because we keep waiting for Kyler to kind of be good, right? Like, oh, Kyler, yeah, he's fun. He's exciting. And that's never happened. He's never had a great year, and he's not going to have a great year. Like, we're already kind of down the road with Kyler. Like, this is who he is. He's a little bit above the Geno line, but not much. And really the problem is that Marvin Harrison was supposed to be like the next Jerry Rice, right? Like I sat here a year ago and I'm like, Cardinals fans, get excited, all three of you, because you have this superstar receiver coming in and it's like, oh, Marvin Harrison can't really separate on anybody. This is bad. And Brian Thomas is sitting there, killing everybody for 150 yards a week when Marvin Harrison's catching 2 balls for 13 yards. Like that's bad too, I hate to tell you. So yeah, you got a pretty much a mediocre quarterback throw into a receiver who, I don't know. Maybe he's just not who we thought he was. Bad times, Cardinals fans. But nobody cares because you live in Phoenix. You got better things to do.
I mean, you're not wrong. Like, I want everybody to care and drastically, but you're right about it. If there's any comfort for a lot of these fan bases, though, Frank, it's that most of us are used to sucking. So, this is all reality. This happens every year. Everybody trashes in the summer. Inherently, it's like, well, you're not positive enough. You don't know what you're talking about. You haven't watched this team, blah, blah, blah. And during the summer, you're a moron if you weren't telling everybody that their favorite team is going to win a Super Bowl. And then by December, it's, well, why weren't you being harder on them before the season started? Like, you just can't win. Everybody just wants their opinion.
Some fan bases are like that, where they just want, you can't be hard enough on them. Like, there's going to be some fan bases after this, you're too nice. Like that. Which fan base do you think is going to be the
Raiders fans
after this
Raiders fans have done this to me for years. Like, Raiders fans always come at me, and they're like, man, you don't believe in the team. And then at the end of the year, when I'm not that stunned that the team's bad, they're like, why aren't you freaking out? Why aren't you holding more people accountable? And it's like, well, what did you expect? Like, if I thought they were going to be a 6-win team and they're a 6-win team, I'm not freaking out don't It's kind of what I thought they were going to be. But yeah, everybody's going to hate us through this process.
Which fan base do you think we've angered the most? I don't know, because some of these teams, probably Lions fans, I think they're really into it, and they really probably think they're still good. When it's like,
Commanders. I think Commanders fans are going to be mad at you.
Commanders fans, Don't forget that was behind the Commanders last year, saying a lot of nice things about you. So don't
I think Steelers and Cowboys fans are going to be frustrated with me. I'll give you that. Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. Okay. We've done our worst. Like all 32 fan bases could hate us for the next week. That's fine. That's cool. We'll come back at some point this summer and speak the praises of the Arizona Cardinals. Be like, oh, we're back on board. We're just kidding with you. No, we're not. You really aren't that good. Like Cardinals just stuck in this vortex of suck for a while. Yeah.
I know that we'll be honest. That's all we can be. And I hope you'll be honest if you rate, review, and subscribe. Although, don't review it if you're just mad at the way we treated your favorite team. Don't be that. No, don't be that. While you're sitting there crying about the fact that we were honest with you, that's not the time to go figure out how many stars to give us, okay? So, have a little bit, act like a grown-up, all right? And then handle the review later. That's all we ask. Rate, review, subscribe. We always appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We appreciate Stone for doing such a great job and everybody behind the scenes that helps make this show possible. We are back Friday. Special guest. Going to get into some draft talk on Friday. You do not want to miss it. In the meantime, follow us. Let us know what you think on social media at Yahoo Schwab, at Jason Fitz. We appreciate you guys so much for listening. Thank you, and have a great week.